two amazing platformers. It was simply a no-brainer to do a third one. Mario's done it, Sonic's done it, heck even Kirby's done it. And it made sense for Donkey Kong to do it as well. After the success of Donkey Kong Countries 1 and 2, it was warranted that a third game was going to happen, so Rare jumped on that right away. You know, there are two camps when it comes to this game. There's the camp that thinks that this game is their least favorite of the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and there's a camp that see it as their second favorite, where it's better than the first game, but not as good as the second game. Where do I stand? Let's find out. Okay, we have the usual file select. Let me slip my name in there. Okay, perfect. Let's start the game. So the story is that DK and Diddy are out fishing when all of a sudden they get captured and used as a source for a machine called Chaos. Dixie stops by at her boyfriend's place and reads his note. However, as 3 days pass and still no sign of her friends, Dixie decides to go out and look for them. So you start off as Dixie Kong as she head towards Wrinkly Kong's save cave. Wrinkly moved away from teaching in school and decided to retire, but she still serves the role of saving your game, for free thank goodness. And if you look right by her couch, she has the new Nintendo 64. That's right, this game was released in the same year Nintendo's new 3D console came out, the Nintendo 64. Now call my attention span short, but this was something I don't think I ever caught as a kid. I was very selective when it came to attention to detail. I might have thought that the console she was playing was just made up for this game. It wasn't until I saw some toy ads that I discovered the Nintendo 64's existence. This game was my first exposure to Peach's castle theme. One of the times you visit Wrinkly, you can hear the theme playing, implying that she's playing Mario 64. On your left we'll find Bazar's general store. He tells you that his brothers are scattered all over the island. More on these guys later. And finally on your right is Funky's Rentals. Funky has a different role here where he now runs a vehicle rental service as a mechanic. And here you'll meet the second playable character of the game, your cousin Kiddy Kong. So the game takes place in Northern Kremisphere, a mountainous region inspired off of Canada. Now unlike the previous two Donkey Kong countries where the world map was always point A to point B, DKC3 allows the player to explore and travel across different areas and worlds with the help of Funky's many different boats, so you'll be on the lookout for many different secrets and hidden areas. So what is there to explore? There are caves where you have to play Simon Says with these crystals in order to unlock the banana birds. Every bird you'll find will head back to Wrinkly's for safekeeping. As you take the boat to Lake Orangutanga, the adventure begins with your first level being Lakeside Limbo. Dixie Kong controls the same as she did in DKC2 with a little bit of a faster ground speed. Not as fast as Diddy in my opinion, but still nice. Kiddy controls somewhat similar to how Donkey did in the original DKC. He's larger, stronger, and heavier than Dixie and can take out the more powerful enemies. And he can roll, just like Donkey Kong. Many people in the Donkey Kong Country community see Kiddy Kong as the worst thing ever created. They say that Kiddy offers nothing new to the series and is a whiny little brat. I will admit, Kiddy controls nowhere near as good as Dixie or Diddy. In fact, Dixie is my overall Kong of preference in this game. Her helicopter move gives the player a much more safer and comfortable experience. However, I do think Kiddy has a few advantages over even DK. When Kiddy grabs a barrel, he can throw it in an angle unlike how DK used to do, making throwing feel a bit more precise. And personally, I think he has a decent running speed, and he also has good platforming compared to DK. I like Kiddy Kong, and it's a shame that he didn't make a return in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, but it is what it is. Sorry, buddy. Many players forget this, but Kiddy has a move where he can skip over the water. I mean, it's cool, but there's not a lot of levels where you can do this, making this ability situational. The team up move from Donkey Kong Country 2 makes a return where you can pick up your Kong and throw them. When Dixie carries Kiddy Kong, her movement is significantly slower due to Kiddy's weight. Throwing him upwards allows him to break cracked floors on the ground, allowing the Kongs to access bonus barrels or areas with hidden items. Throwing your cousin forward allows him to roll and bounce off walls. While this is happening, Dixie can ride on top of him like a circus ball. But when Kiddy carries Dixie, he can throw her up above higher areas where you can find a whole bunch of hidden goodies or bonus barrels, making this another instance where Kiddy Kong is useful. How about that? And of course, it wouldn't be a Donkey Kong Country game without our good friends, the Animal Buddies. Returning allies are Ungard, Squawks, Quawks, and Squitter, serving the same roles as before. So happy to see Squitter. And who doesn't love Ungard? And unsurprisingly, we have new faces. The first and most notable is Ellie the Elephant, replacing longtime fan favorite Rambi the Rhinoceros. Why? I don't know. Because I haven't played a whole lot of DKC3 compared to the first two, I always assumed that Rambi was in this game but wouldn't appear till later levels. But no, Rambi is completely gone. Ellie can pick up barrels and inhales them towards her with her trunk. She also draws water and shoots them at enemies. Her only downside is her fear of rats, as she freaks out and runs off briefly after seeing one. Personally, I like Ellie. She's the first animal buddy in my opinion that doesn't have a quirk I disagree with. Yeah, she's not strong like Rambi, nor does she have any of his headstrong attacks. And she also has his tricky traction when it comes to platforming. But the fear of rats helps make situations a little more challenging and has the player try to work her way around her fear. Plus, there's only few levels that contain both Ellie and Sneaks. And while she's nowhere near as good as Squitter, her ability to use barrels as platforms reminds me of reasons why I like Squitter. Ellie has her flaws, but she's definitely a capable animal buddy. In Fish Food Frenzy, there's a Nibbler which sorta counts as an ally. You know what, let's just call it the anti-animal buddy. Yeah, that sounds right. Anti-animal buddy. Nibbler follows you throughout the level where you must feed it cocoa fish to keep it satisfied. Nibbler changes colors depending on its mood. The longer it goes without food, the madder it gets before attacking you. Also, try to avoid lurchins as it hates those things. Nibbler also gives you a challenge of being aware of danger and your surroundings. And last we have Perry the Parallel Bird. What? The gimmick with this little thing is that it flies directly above you and moves whenever you do. Perry can collect items above you, but the problem is you have to keep it safe from enemies by carefully jumping. If it makes contact with an enemy, it dies. It can only defeat Booty Bird. Booty Bird! Oh, I get it. Booty as in treasure, because they carry coins and bananas, balloons, items. Anyway, Perry the Parallel Bird just feels like a situational power-up. Not useless, but very pointless. Yeah, the animal buddies are nowhere near as good as before. I feel like this was an area where Rare started running out of ideas. I mean, Perry the Parallel Bird really serves no purpose. But going back into the supporting Kong family, my favorite would have to be Swanky Kong, who's now hosting a carnival where we face off against that old lovable bastard Cranky Kong. Yes, it's a shame that we can't visit his home where he could give us helpful tips and snarky ass comments. But come on, playing target practice against the old man where you win and he chases you across different screens is so satisfying. Winning earns you bananas and bear coins. Another supporting cast are the brother bears, who probably have a bigger family tree than the Kongs. One of each of these brothers are located in different worlds or areas where you can visit them. Each of these bears have a task or issue that they want the Kongs to solve. And because I was going for a complete playthrough, I decided to do every little thing that the brother bears wanted me to do. But for all intents and purposes, they're fairly easy tasks. You just have to do a lot of backtracking. For example, Blizzard Bear is unable to make it to Blue's birthday, so he wants the Kongs to deliver his birthday present for him. Snow problem. How about Snow Sweat? That would have been funnier. So we travel to Blue's place to give him his gift. And while he's delighted, he feels that the bowling ball is way too heavy for him to carry, so he decides to give it to the Kongs. Whatever happened to the thought that counts? And you're a bear, buddy. You have the muscles to play bowling. Go to round 1. So you can take the bowling ball to Bazooka, who can use it as ammo to launch you guys up to the next Banana Bird area. Which, by the way, some of these bears are holding the poor things hostage, so you'll need to pay them in currency in order to free them. What is wrong with these guys? Every time you save at Wrinkly's place, you can see what you have to collect in order to complete the game. And yes, there's a lot more you need to collect in this game than you did in Donkey Kong Country 2. Banana birds, bonus coins, cogs, bear coins, DK coins which are now mandatory to beat the game. You know, as I'm progressing from the Donkey Kong series, from Donkey Kong Country all the way up to this game, something tells me this is what led to the collectathon known as Donkey Kong 64. DK coins are now held by this Kremlin known as Coin. No, I'm not kidding, that's his name. You'll have to hit him from behind with a steel barrel in order to get the coin. And you will need all of these collectibles to get the complete percentage. And like Donkey Kong Country 2, there is a lost world. In the lost world, many of the pathways are blocked off. Boomer Bear will clear them for you if you pay him in cogs. While the levels themselves were not as ambient as Donkey Kong Country or energetic as Donkey Kong Country 2, Donkey Kong Country 3's levels were somewhat in the middle. While beginners will easily plow through the first few levels, Murky Mill is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. See, this is the level that introduces Ellie's fear of rats. It's a level covered in darkness but also has areas of lights. These are where the sneak rats appear. Ellie will need a barrel to knock these critters out, or else she'll run away, stopping you from progressing. Donkey Kong Country 3 is chock full of levels that will make you pull your hair. There's Ripsaw's Rage, there's Tearaway Toboggan, Crackshot Croc, Poisonous Pipeline, but the one level that players talk about the most is the infamous Lightning Lookout. I heard stories about this game, but until then, I never played this level before, not even as a kid. I didn't get far in Donkey Kong Country 3, but I did get to Bobbing Barrel Brawl, which also has the same thing, Enchanted Riverbank. And honestly, Enchanted Riverbank doesn't sound like the appropriate name for this theme, because this theme, if you listen to it, literally sounds like you're in danger. And Bobbing Barrel Brawl is just a level, a standard forest level where you're mostly playing as Ellie, just getting across the rivers and all that. Playing Lightning Lookout for the first time, what did I think of it? Was it as hard as people make it out to be, or were people exaggerating? Well, the gimmick of the stage is that you have to get to the end without being struck by lightning. You can hide underneath enemies as the lightning strikes them as opposed to you. The trick to avoiding the lightning is to pay attention to where it's going to strike. Look for where the small lightning bolt appears above, because in a split second, that's exactly where the lightning bolt is going to strike on the surface. And keep out of the water as well, as it conducts electricity. This is actually my favorite level in the game. I love the darker elements of the Donkey Kong Country series. The dark skies, the sense of danger and urgency of being struck by lightning. This is the first time I've ever played this level, but the music was always scary to me as a child. The track is called Enchanted Riverbank, which doesn't feel fitting for the level Bobbing Barrel Brawl. That level is where I first heard this music piece, but I never felt that it fit that level as there was never any danger in it. It fits Lightning Lookout perfectly. Now, given the DKC's rich history with music, the soundtrack has to be better than the previous two games, right? Well, unfortunately, David Wise wasn't as involved in the soundtrack this time. The music was composed by Evelyn Fischer, and while I did enjoy many of her tracks, I just don't find them as fun and exciting as David Wise's tracks. Although later he did come back and compose music tracks for the Game Boy Advance version of Donkey Kong Country 3, and if you want to know what those sound like, you can look him up. Evelyn's tracks are a lot more cozier, which I would argue gives Donkey Kong Country 3's soundtrack its own identity. It goes well with the mountainous region theme, which makes the game's soundtrack ambient in its own right. It kind of goes back more to Donkey Kong Country 1's soundtrack, where there were a lot of ambient themes. As far as the bosses go, while they were creative, they were pretty underwhelming. A lot of them were pretty frustrating, but I mostly found them boring and time consuming. The one I found the most interesting was Bleak the Snowman. It literally plays like Swanky's target practice minigame. In concept, this is fun, but in execution, it takes a while to get a hit on the boss. Even Baron K. Rulenstein was disappointing. No duh, K. Rool was behind this whole thing. And yes, he goes from King K. Rool to Captain K. Rool to Baron K. Rulenstein. Make up your mind, dude, are you changing career pathways? And like DKC2, you'll have to fight this guy again in the Lost World. But the real ending comes when you collected all the banana birds and fly the gyrocopter up to the clouds, where you meet the mother of all the banana birds, the Banana Queen. Turns out that K. Rool sealed her away and will need the help of all of her children to free her. And the true ending of this game is probably one of the most satisfying. Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie Kong's Double Trouble may not be as fun as its predecessors, but I still think it's a very worthy entry in the series. If you're in favor of collecting in a platformer or being fairly challenged, give this game a try. I ended up enjoying this game a lot more than I did as a kid. The Donkey Kong Country trilogy are timeless masterpieces that should not be overlooked. All three of these treasures have cemented Donkey Kong's place as one of the most popular video game icons of all time. Thank you, Rare, for giving the Super Nintendo and gamers everywhere fantastic games to play. So these are my thoughts on Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, and that'll be it for the Donkey Kong Marathon. But don't worry, I will review more Donkey Kong games in the future, so you can look forward to that. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos to come. I will see you guys later. Peace.